Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Pesachim. We are up to Perek Gimel Mishnah Chet. Today's Mishnayot should be Le'ilun Nishmat, Neria ben Tzvetlana, Aranbai ben Eliyahu ben Burchai Israelov, Menuchatam Began Eden, Amen. Yesterday's Mishnah dealt with the question of whether a person was traveling, must return home to destroy his chametz. Today's Mishnah deals with a similar situation, but one that has nothing to do with chametz. Rather, it involves kodashim kalim, literally offerings of lesser holiness. There are two types of offerings: kodesh kodashim, most holy offerings which must be eaten in the temple courtyard, and kodashim kalim, offerings of lesser holiness which may be eaten anywhere in Yerushalayim. Now, the meat of kodashim kalim, like we said, must be eaten inside Yerushalayim. If it's taken outside the city, it is disqualified, and one must bring it back to Yerushalayim and burn it there. The Mishnah considers when this obligation to bring it back applies and when it does not. Similarly, if someone left Yerushalayim and remembered that he has sacred meat with him, the law is as follows. Im avar tzofim, if he has already passed Tzofim, that Tzofim was the name of a village, it was the farthest point outside Yerushalayim from which a temple could be seen. So Fobim Komod, the Mishnah says he burns it where he is, because once he has traveled that far, the rabbis did not trouble him to return to Yerushalayim. Vim lav, but if he has not yet passed Tzofim, Chozer v'sofo lifnei abira me'atzei ha'maracha, he must return to Yerushalayim and he may burn it before the bira. According to Rabbi Yochanan, Masechet Zvachim, page 104b, the bira was a specific place on the Temple Mount that was designated for the burning of disqualified kodashim kalim. According to Reish Lakish there, it refers to the entire area associated with the temple, including the Temple Mount. Again, he must return to Yerushalayim and he may burn it before the bira with the wood of the atzei maracha, the altar maracha. Now, in fact, he may burn the meat anywhere in Yerushalayim. However, if he burns it at the bira, he must fuel the fire with the wood that was consecrated for the altar, whereas if he burns it elsewhere in the city, he must use his own wood. The Mishnah means that a person was merely visiting Yerushalayim and has no wood of his own, may go to the bira where wood will be given to him. Now, although this Mishnah and the previous one ruled that in certain situations a traveler must return to destroy the forbidden item, whether it's chametz or sacred meat, he does not need to return unless the substance has a certain minimum size. Vatkama and chozrin, and for how much chametz or sacred meat does one return? Rabbi Meir says, Zeh v'zeh bekabetza, in both this case and that case, he returns for an egg's value, meaning he does not need to return unless the chametz or meat is as large as an egg. If the chametz is smaller than an egg, he just nullifies it. If the meat is smaller than an egg, he may burn it where he is. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, but Rabbi Yehuda says, Zeh v'zeh bekazayit, in both this case and that case, he returns even for an olive's volume. But the sages say, B'sa kodesh bekazayit, in the case of sacrificial meat, he returns for an olive's volume. V'chametz bekabetzayin, in the case of chametz, he returns for an egg's volume. And the Rav does tell us, V'lecha kechachamim, the halacha follows the opinion of these sages. Now, chapter 4 begins by discussing the laws regarding the performance of work on the morning of Erev Pesach, the 14th of Nisan. Like we will see in the first Mishnah, whether or not one may work during this time is a matter of local custom, not halacha. After stating that people must follow the customs of their towns, the Mishnah discusses several other customs observed in some communities, most of them unrelated to Pesach. Now, the obligation to keep the custom received from our ancestors is derived from the pasuk, Shema beni musar avicha v'al titosh torat imecha. Hear, my child, the discipline of your father, and do not forsake the teaching of your mother. Rav Shirira Gaon adds that it can also be inferred from the pasuk in Sefer Dvarim, chapter 19, pasuk 14. Lo tasig givul reacha asher gavlu rishonim. You shall not move your neighbor's border, which the early ones marked out. Rav Shirira understands this not only in the literal sense, but also as a warning not to change the customs established by our ancestors, which the pasuk refers to as the early ones. The chapter begins with the custom of some communities not to perform work on Erev Pesach before midday. The Mishnah speaks of those types of work similar to the types of work forbidden on Chol HaMoed. So the Mishnah begins Perek Daled Mishnah Aleph. Makom shenahagu la'asot melacha ba'arvei Pesachim ad chatzot osin. Makom shenahagu shelo la'asot en osin. In a place where the people follow the custom to perform work on Erev Pesach until midday, one may perform work before midday, but in a place where they follow the custom not to perform work before midday, one may not perform work before midday. Now, one is not allowed to perform work after midday on Erev Pesach anywhere. The rabbis instituted this prohibition so that one will not get so involved in his work that he forgets to remove chametz from his possession, slaughter the Pesach offering, or prepare matzah for the night of Pesach. In some places, the custom was to extend this prohibition to the morning. The Mishnah teaches that this custom is binding wherever it was adopted. Now, one who moves from one place to another follows the customs observed in his new place of residence. The Mishnah discusses the law for one who is temporarily in another city on Erev Pesach. If one travels from a place where they perform work before midday on Erev Pesach to a place where they do not perform work, or from a place where they do not perform work before midday on Erev Pesach to a place where they do perform work, we impose upon him the stringencies of the place from which he departed and the stringencies of the place to which he went. As a result, in both cases, he may not perform work before midday. Now, in the first case, where he traveled from a place where they perform work to a place where they do not perform work, he must observe the local custom not to work, the stringencies of the place to which he went. In the second case, where he traveled from a place where they do not perform work to a place where they do, he must observe his hometown custom not to work, which is the stringencies of the place from which he departed. And this follows the rule that a person should not deviate from the local custom because of the conflict that this might cause between him and the local people. Meaning, a person is generally bound by the customs of his hometown. Nevertheless, in order to prevent conflict, one should follow the customs of his current location. Therefore, where the local custom is not to work, he too should refrain from work, because if he were to work there, he might cause machloket, conflict. On the other hand, where the local custom is to work, he should observe his hometown custom not to work. This will not cause conflict, because the people in his current location where they do work will simply assume that he has no work to do. And that is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.